Hello everyone, today we are going to be revising conditionals type 2 and type 3. Conditional type 2. We use conditional type 2 for unreal, impossible, or improbable present situations. The tense we use is past, but we are talking about the present now. For example, if I knew her name, I would tell you. I don't know her name. My not knowing her name is the real life situation. Another example is, if I were you, I would tell my father. I'm not you, though. There are two parts in a sentence. The first part is the conditional, and the second part is the main clause, or vice versa. We can change the places. The conditional clause is the clause that starts with if, and the main clause is the other one. If we can formulate conditional type 2, we can say if we're starting the sentence with if clause, we use if plus subject plus past simple, comma, subject plus would or could plus verb infinitive. Or we can get the main clause at the beginning of the sentence and we can say subject plus would or could plus verb infinitive plus if plus subject plus past simple. Do not forget that if you're using a conditional clause in the beginning of the sentence, you need to separate the two clauses using a comma. If you're using the conditional clause in the second part of the sentence, there is no need to use a comma because there is already if to separate them both. In conditional type 2, we are talking about unreal past situations. The time is past, so we are talking about a past situation that was not so in the past. For example, if you had warned me, I wouldn't have told your father about that party. Did you warn me? No, you didn't. So I told your father about the party. There are again two parts in a sentence, the conditional clause and the main clause. The system is the same. The conditional clause, if it is in the beginning of the sentence, it needs to be separated from the main clause by a comma. And if the main clause is used in the first place, then there is no need to use a comma as if it's going to be separating them from each other. Now, when we come to formulating conditional type 3, we use if plus subject, past perfect in this time, and subject would, could, have plus past participle, or vice versa. There is a similarity between conditionals type 2, 3 and wish clauses, which is that they both use one tense back from the real life system. Let's have a look at the questions and examples here. If John did exercise, he would be healthier. This is type 2. For conditional, we can say, I wish John did exercise. If John did exercise, I wish John did exercise. Does John do exercise? No, he doesn't do exercise. This is the real life present time. The second example is this. If he had run faster, he could have won the race. This is type 3. We use past perfect with if conditional and could have past participle in the main clause. If only he had run faster. If he had run faster. If only he had run faster. You know, if only means I wish. The real life past time situation is this. He didn't run faster. We are talking about a hypothetical situation. If he did it like that, if he had done it like that, the outcome, the result could have been different. Unless and if not. Unless is used instead of if not in the conditional sentences. Let's have a look at the examples. If Jake didn't speak English, he wouldn't find a job easily. We take if and not part of the sentence as unless. Jake spoke English. We leave the main clause the same. He wouldn't find a job easily. This is another example for type 3. If you hadn't practiced enough, you couldn't have passed the test. Type 3. If and not parts are used as unless at the beginning of the sentence, or you can use this conditional part again in the second part of your sentence. Unless you had practiced enough, you couldn't have passed the test. Or you can say, you couldn't have passed the test unless you had practiced enough. Now let's have a look at conditional questions, how we form them. For type 2, we have two dialogues here going on, and let's have a look at the first one. What year would you go to if you could travel back in time? This is type 2, everyone. So we use would, verb 1, verb infinitive in the main clause, and if could travel back in the main clause. If conditional part. What year would you go to if you could travel back in time? I would go to 1920s to see Atatürk. We can add alive here. In the second dialogue, we can see if you were an English teacher, again with the if conditional part, we use past simple. Would you give homework to your students? Would, infinitive. If you were an English teacher, would you give homework to your students? Yes, I would, says B. But not more than this. Type 3, we have again two dialogues. The first one is like this. If you hadn't won the match, what would have happened? If, past perfect, would have, past participle. All the fans of the team would have been disappointed. We give the answers to these conditional questions using the main clause. All the time we use the main clause to give the answers to the questions of conditionals. Which university would you have chosen if you had scored better? I would have chosen Oxford or Yale, the main part, the main language clause here. I would have chosen Oxford or Yale. Let's have a look at exercises. We can do them together here. If I were hungry, this is past simple, so we can understand that. This exercise is type 2. If I were hungry, here we need to use would infinitive. The correct answer is would make a sandwich. Am I hungry? No, I'm not hungry. I'm talking about a hypothetical situation for now. Number 2, I would buy a new car if we need a past simple here, more money. Which option has past simple? A, had. I would buy a new car if I had more money. Do I have more money? No, I don't have more money. Number 3, if his homework every day, he would get better marks. He would get, this is type 2 again, so we need to use past simple with if conditional part of the sentence. If his homework every day, he would get better marks. Does, did, and will do we have here. we need the past simple tense here. So did is the correct answer. If he did his homework every day, he would get better marks. Does he do his homework every day? No, he doesn't. If our parents were here, they asked what to do. Past simple here, would infinitive is needed. We have it here in option B. They would tell us what to do. Are they here? No, they aren't. I would help her if she, past simple we need again, asked me. Does she ask me for help? No, she doesn't. If I found a $20 bill on the street, the conditional part is in the beginning of the sentence, so we have the main clause in the second part. With the main clause, we use would infinitive, so I would keep it. Do I find a $20 bill on the street? No, I don't. If I found, I would keep it for myself. 7. To your party on Saturday. If I didn't have to work, the second part is the conditional part, conditional clause. So we have the main clause in the first part. So in the main clause, in conditional type 2, we have would come. I would come to your party on Saturday if I didn't have to work. But I have to work, so I can't come to your party. I would call them if their phone number. We are now going to fill in the gap with the if conditional part. In conditional type 2, the if part of the sentence is past simple. So we can say knew. I would call them if I knew their telephone number. Yes, here we are. Let's move on to more exercises. Here we need to use third conditional. The first one, we have the real life conditions, the real life situations, and we are asked to rewrite them using third conditional. He didn't get the job. He didn't buy a bigger flat. He couldn't buy a bigger flat. If he had got the job, he could have bought a bigger flat. This is how we form conditionals type 3. With the if part, we use past perfect, and in the main clause, we use would have or could have past participle. You didn't say you were sorry. She left. She wouldn't have left if, with the if part, we need to use past perfect. Didn't say becomes hadn't said. Had said you were sorry. 3. You didn't tell us earlier. We didn't do anything. We could have done something. We take the opposite form. If it is the negative form, we get the positive affirmative form. If it is the affirmative, if the sentence, the action is affirmative, we get the negative form of it. We could have done something if the subject is you, didn't tell, had told us earlier. If you had told us earlier. You stopped quickly. We didn't crash. If you hadn't stopped quickly, you stopped quickly. We are using a hypothetical situation. If you hadn't stopped quickly, we wouldn't have crashed, we can say. Sorry, we would have crashed. If you hadn't stopped quickly, we would have crashed. 5. You didn't listen to me. This happened. This never would have happened if you. 6. Yes, you're right. Had listened to me. You didn't apply for the job. You didn't get an interview. You might, if you had applied, you might have gotten an interview, right? Okay. You might have gotten an interview if you had applied for the job. I went to the party. You persuaded me to go. I wouldn't have. Past perfect form of this. If you, negative form, past perfect. I wouldn't have gone to the party if you hadn't persuaded me to go. I wouldn't have gone to the party if you hadn't persuaded me to go. I didn't know she was coming. I didn't wait for her. I would have waited for her if I, one tense back, and affirmative, had known she was coming. I would have waited for her if I had known she was coming. This is all from me for now. You're going to have your homework in the later slides. Do not forget to save them somewhere safe. This is the first page. This is the second page. And this is the third page. Let me change its place a little bit so that you can see. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact your teachers. And that's it from me. Have a good day. Enjoy the rest of your day.